Hi guys, welcome to Studying with Zahra. This is my first ever video and it's going to be all about study techniques. So let's get right into it. The first technique that we're going to be going over is Pomodoros technique. In this technique you're going to be studying for 25 minutes, you're going to have a 5-minute break, and then you're going to repeat this 4 times, so you have a total of 2 hours of studying consisting of an hour and 40 minutes of actual studying and a 20-minute break. And then once you're done with the 4 repetitions, you can have a slightly longer break if you like. The breaks in between are optional, but I find that they really help because our attention span as humans is about 25 minutes or so, and so it really helps reset and fuel you up for the next half an hour or so of studying. Okay, the next technique is Feynman's technique, and in this technique you study, read, and understand the concept, and then you simplify it and teach it in a way to yourself that a 5-year-old would understand. You can use analogies, relations, real life examples. If you don't have anyone to teach it to, you can voice record it. You can recite it to a family member. And this is especially useful because it really tests whether or not you understand the topic. I feel like it's more useful for concept based subjects, but it can also work for memorizing ones as well. Okay, the third method is the loci, not really sure how to pronounce it, method. Imagine each point or statement is an object in a room or a familiar place, for example, home or school. For instance, you can resonate the door. If I'm learning about motion in physics, I can resonate the door with Newton's first law. And then I can resonate a mug in the kitchen with Newton's second law. And then I can resonate a painting on the wall with, I don't know, momentum or something. Personally, I find this method more useful for like memorizing, so for like biology and stuff. But you can also use it for concept-based methods if that works for you. We're basically creating like a mind palace, like Sherlock Holmes, and I find that it really works. Okay, the fourth method is spaced repetition. So you study your topic, and then a week after you studied it, you're going to revise it. And then after 3 weeks, you're going to revise it again. And then a month, or however much you want, okay? And you keep going and increasing the time span. The purpose of this is it basically combats the forgetfulness curve, so that topic or statement or whatever it is that you're studying is truly like instilled into your brain. Okay, the fifth method is blurting. You're gonna pick your source, for example, SME, Save My Exams, or your textbook or your notes. Revise that source thoroughly, and then voice record or write everything you can remember. And the reason this method is so useful is because you're forcefully remembering stuff. Then once you're done writing everything down or voice recording, if you're a little lazier, then you reopen your source and you compare the two. You compare what you've written down with what the source has written. And then every single thing that you've missed out, you're going to study again and then blur it out again. And you repeat this process until you're fully confident with that topic. It's especially useful for memorizing subjects, but again, you can also use it for concept based subjects if it works for you. Okay, the next topic or the next technique is adventure studying. This is a really short one and a really simple one. Basically, you just add a sense of adventure to your studying. So, for example, you can go to the football field, you can go to the park, you can go to a coffee shop, a library. Just make studying a little bit more fun for yourself. You can grab a coffee or a matcha, anything that makes studying a little more enjoyable or motivates you to study. Okay, the next technique is priming, and basically what this means is you're priming before you're going into the lesson. So you're getting a big picture of whatever you're learning before entering the class. This is especially useful for conceptual subjects, for instance, chemistry, physics, sociology, even, but it can also work for memorizing subjects. Basically, you just gather all the material about the topic, do your research the unfamiliar concepts, keywords, etc. And then you make a diagram on everything that you've learned, or you can also make notes on it. And then once you go into your class, you're gonna annotate over that diagram or over that note sheet that you've written down. And the reason this is so useful is because, unlike everyone else, you're actually present in the lesson. You're not focused on writing, but instead you're focused on learning. And your notes are more personalized and based off of what you think is important, um, based on in comparison to what the teacher might think important. So again, it's a lot more personalized, um, and I find that technique really, really useful. Okay, next we're going to be talking about notes and how to make them. So I feel like a lot of people forget that notes are just meant to facilitate the process of learning in your brain. There's no point of going all fancy and making all these aesthetic notes if they're not really supporting your brain in recalling all of the information. So, as we mentioned previously in the priming point, you're going to make your notes and diagrams at home and then annotate over these home notes and diagrams in class and add any key observations. Another thing that I find really helps is jotting down active recall questions. Um, this way, when you go home and you open up your notes, you have all these questions to answer. They don't even have to be long questions, they can be short questions like how can this topic be applied, or a real life example, or how can changing one variable affect the total outcome. So, just short questions that really get your brain thinking, active recall questions that you can look forward and listen and answer afterwards. Okay, next we have how to study different topics. So, physics and bio, for example, they're really different subjects. Now, there's no way we can be studying these two subjects the same way because they're completely different. Physics is more based on concepts and thinking, whereas bio is more memorizing based. So, for your concept based subjects, you're going to break it down and use connections. Basically, what I mean by making connections is if I ask you to remember a sequence P, Y, P, A, H, it's not going to be nearly as memorable as if I asked you to remember the following sequence H, A, P, P, Y. Now, they're both the same letters. The only difference is H, A, P, P, Y, the word happy, is a lot easier for us to remember because we have these connections in our brain. For concept subjects, you can also make concept sheets. I saw someone on TikTok talk about this. Basically, you just, if we're talking about like math, for instance, and we're talking about interest, I can make these concept sheets. So the first step can be figure out what, you know, each variable in my formula is, and then the step number 2 can be input them into your formula. Step number 3 can be calculate and stuff. If we're talking about like physics, for example, W equals m times g, weight equals mass times gravitational force. The first step can be figure out what W is, figure out what m is, figure out what g is. Step number 2 can be substitute. Step number 3 can be calculate. So these concept sheets are really useful because instead of going through a bunch of notes before the exam, you have these concept sheets that you can just quickly browse through and make connections in your brain with. For memorizing subjects, you can use mnemonic sheets. Also, I highly recommend using interacting images. What interacting images are, I'm going to be explaining in a second. So, for instance, if you have to remember this fact, fats have 9 calories per gram. If I ask you what the fact I told you was in a month, you probably wouldn't remember it. But if I made connections in my brain and I thought about how cats have 9 lives, would a fat cat have 9 lives? Probably not. It's something silly. Some people might even say it's stupid, but it helps me remember, and so it works. Another example of interacting images is chemistry. I had a really, really hard time memorizing the flame test colors. And so what I did was, for example, sodium, right? Sodium burns with a yellow flame, and I had a really hard time remembering that. I would always mix them up. So what I did was sodium, I connected it to sodium chloride, which is salt. And what do you put salt on? Eggs. And what do eggs look like? They look yellow. The yolks of an egg are the yolks of an egg is yellow. Um, so you can kind of connect that to the yellow flame. It sounds really silly, but it really helped me remember and it got me through my chemistry test. So you don't have to tell them to anyone if you feel like it's silly or stupid. You don't have to. Um, but personally, I find that this method really, really helps. So I highly, highly recommend you use interacting images. Okay, next we have pretests. Basically, what this means is before you study a topic, you're going to ask ChatGPT to generate a 10 question or more or less quiz on that topic. This way, once you're studying that topic, you're going to be looking for the answers to these questions, so it promotes the hypercorrection effect, and you're never going to get those questions wrong in the test. Okay, the next point is a little bit different. We're going to be talking about creativity. So, as humans, we only have 4 hours of creativity in us for a day. And school or university tends to use that up. So, because of that, try studying in the morning before going to school, maybe an hour, half an hour. Try not to study after 10 p.m. because your brain tends to slow down at that time. And this is just a side note, have something to look forward to at the end of the day, like a favorite show to watch, a short movie, baking, anything that you find joy in. Have that at the end of the day so that it can get you through the day. Okay, next we're going to be talking about how to use textbooks. I feel like school always gives us textbooks, but they never really teach us how to use them. The method that we're going to be using is SQ3R. Survey, question, read, recite, review. So you read the chapter properly and raise questions as you're going through it, skim it, scan it. The questions that you're going to be raising are going to be, like an example could be, what is this picture talking about? Or what is, this specific formula? Or what is this, So as you're skimming and scanning through, you're going to be raising really basic questions. The purpose of this is if you intend to find something, you tend to find it. Okay, next we have some additional points that I just found during my deep dive of how to study. I saw someone on YouTube say this is useful. I'm not really sure if it works. I haven't really tested it out. But if you use 40 hertz 5 minutes before studying, if you listen to it, apparently it's meant to increase your focus. Also, staring at a spot for 30 seconds before studying can apparently help. And the last point that we're going to be talking about is study areas. So basically, as if you're a teenager, you probably use your room for a million things: eating, sleeping, getting dressed, all of that. So what I want you to do is create a corner in your room, or a desk in your room, or even an object in your room, like a lamp, that is only allocated to studying. So I'm only going to turn this lamp on when I'm studying. And the second I turn it on, magic, I'm studying. The second I turn it off, I'm out. No more studying. And the reason this is really useful is because it kind of helps create the mood for studying, which I find really, really helpful. And I think we're done. Yeah, that's it for today's video. I really hope this helps some of you out there who want to get into studying, don't really know how. Personally, I really wish I knew these techniques sooner because they're especially useful for school students. Yeah, stay tuned for the next video. Please subscribe and like if you can. It really helps my channel grow. And I'll see you guys next time. Bye.